Hi there, and thank you for tuning in for this newest Read Woke video. During this video, we'll talk about the topic of empathetic listening. I'm Tara, and I'm a programming librarian with the Cedar Rapids Public Library, and I'm excited to discuss this topic and how this form of listening and communication can help you during difficult conversations. So, I'm thinking that you've probably heard of active listening, which involves rephrasing what another person has said to make sure that the message they were trying to convey is fully understood by you. But I'm wondering how many of you have heard of empathetic listening. To keep things simple, empathetic listening is simply active listening, but adding a component of empathy into the mix. So what does this look like in practice? So let's say your friend is venting to you about their rough morning. They call you on the phone and they say, you wouldn't believe the morning I had. First the dog got loose and ran away, and then my youngest refused to get into her car seat. I am just so over today already, and the day has barely even started. Using empathetic listening, you might reply, yeah, that sounds rough. First the dog, and then your kid. It sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed. As they continue to talk, you work to stay focused on what they are saying and the emotions that they are expressing and helping them to feel understood. But empathetic listening isn't just about the words we say. It's a conscious choice that we make to try to understand what another person may be feeling or thinking based on their personal experience. This type of listening is very valuable in close personal relationships, but can really be invaluable when used with those who come from different backgrounds than us or hold values or beliefs that contrast with our own. And because empathy is all about understanding where another person is coming from, it allows us to acknowledge the reality of another, even if their reality seems very different from ours. This doesn't mean that we have to agree with them. When we use empathetic listening, our goal is to just try to understand where the other person is coming from and what they are trying to say, not to change them or persuade them. And the neat thing that can happen during these conversations is that by not trying to persuade another person to our own view, we can allow some space and openness in our communication, and sometimes that ends up giving the other person a curiosity for what we actually think, and they end up wanting to explore that with us too. Have you ever had a heated conversation with someone, say about politics or, religion or some other charged topic, and they spend the whole conversation disagreeing with you and trying to convince you about how right they are and how wrong you are and how you should believe what they say? By the end of that conversation, do you feel more agreeable and open to what they have said? I'm thinking probably not. So all of this sounds good in theory, but how do we put this into practice in difficult conversations? I have a few tips to get you started, and then I'll share some resources at the end of our video for further exploration. So here are a few tips for practicing empathetic listening during your next difficult conversation. So my first tip is to ask open-ended questions for clarification and understanding throughout your conversation. So an open-ended question is anything that doesn't involve a yes or no answer. So we're just asking these questions in order to better understand what the other person is trying to say. And remember that listening is an active process. It's not a passive process. Empathetic listening involves the intent to understand the other while engaging with a conversation in meaningful, active ways, such as asking those questions. Consider practicing mindfulness outside of your difficult conversations. So mindfulness practices such as meditation help individuals stay present and focused during stressful situations. They can also help us identify emotions as they come up during difficult conversations so that we're observing those emotions instead of acting on them during our conversation. Also, remember that your goal is understanding and not persuasion, as we talked about earlier. And when possible, ask the other person if they would be willing to listen to understand you as well. Set some ground rules for the conversation at the beginning before it gets heated. And a very important tip, Don't do this practice of empathetically listening unless you really want to do it and you believe in it and you've researched it and it feels right for you. It's not your obligation to do it. It's a choice to help understand and share dialogue with someone else so that you can both have a better understanding of each other and a different viewpoint. And lastly, respect yourself enough to walk away if the conversation doesn't feel right to you or respectful to you. So, to tie this all together and to give you a real life example of someone who took the time to understand and empathize with people who held very different viewpoints from him, I want to show you a clip from this TED Talk I listened to recently. Speaker Theo E. Wilson discusses his experience with political polarization and the alt-right and why difficult conversations around politics and race are vitally important in today's world. So let's take a listen.
You see, the internet has this interesting quality. In one way, totally brought the world together. And I remember being a kid, and all of this utopian propaganda was being dumped on us about how the World Wide Web was going to span the reaches of people across the globe. But as it turns out, people are people. And this magical superhighway also took the demons of our nature and gave them Ferraris. You see, technology, y'all, is a lot like money. Just brings out what's already inside you and amplifies it. And so I soon became familiar with the phenomenon of the internet troll. These guys seem to live beneath the bridges of said superhighway. And they also missed the memo about the enlightenment of the internet age. I remember being called highly colorful racial slurs by those who use the anonymity of the internet as a clan hood. And some of them were pretty creative, actually. But others were pretty wounding, especially navigating the post-traumatic world of a police brutality survivor in the height of Black Lives Matter, with all of these people being killed on my timeline. To these trolls, I wasn't a human. I was an idea, an object, a caricature. Did I mention that this race stuff can be kind of divisive? You see, I'm an innately curious person. And as I drew my sword to engage in epic battles in the comment section, I also began to notice that a few of my trolls actually had brains, which made me even more curious and want to understand them even further. And although these supposed morons engaged in what appeared to be original thought, I said to myself, these guys are highly misinformed, at least according to my knowledge. Where are these guys getting these arguments from? Like, was there some kind of alternative universe with alternative facts? Like, to me that humanity itself needs an upgrade. Now, that's a big task, understandably. But I don't believe in any kind of unbeatable monster. There was no giant out there without perhaps a simple Achilles heel. Now, what if I told you that one of the best ways to actually overcome this is to have courageous conversations with difficult people, people who do not see the world the same way that you see the world. Oh yes, folks, conversations may be indeed the key to that upgrade. Because remember, language was the first form of virtual reality. It is literally a symbolic representation of the physical world. And through this device, we change the physical world. Keep in mind, conversations stop violence. Conversations start countries. They build bridges. And when the chips are down, conversations are the last tool that humans use before they pick up the guns. And I ain't talking about online safe conversations from the security of your laptop. No. I'm talking about in-your-face conversations with real, breathing people. And for me, this looks like running a community forum called Shop Talk Live. It is time that we start seeing people as people, and not simply the ideas that we project onto them or react to. Human beings are not the barriers, but the gateways to the very things that we want. This is a collective and conscious evolution.
So I just wanted to thank you for listening and watching this video today. I'm going to share Theo E.J. Wilson's video in the resources section, as well as a TED Talk by Christian Picciolini, who was at one time a white supremacist, but was able to find his way out of the movement and had similar experiences to Theo E.J. Wilson in that he needed to have conversations with people who were different from him and learn to have a better understanding of others, and that's what helped him change his worldview and become less hateful towards others who were different from him. So I'll share that as well. But again, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.